Hi everybody, welcome back to Food Systems English. Again, I really hope that you and your families and everyone around you is doing fine and taking care of each other. Just wanted to put up some more material for you guys to look at. We're going to be continuing today our analysis of what is a sustainable food system. And we talked last time about saying that sustainable food systems are about bringing food from the farm to the table, and specifically food which is nutritious, farmed in a sustainable way, and which is respectful to the rights and needs of the farmer and of the consumer. So last time we looked at some kind of more concerning issues, some difficulties that farmers have, some difficulties economically, etc., for the food system. So today, I thought we'd look at things that are perhaps a bit more positive. So what I'd like you to do is to pause this video and bring up this YouTube video and watch it. Watch it through, turn on the subtitles, the closed captioning at the bottom of the screen, and watch it in sections or watch it through however works for you best. If you need to stop and look up words in the dictionary, that's fine too. And then once you've watched that video, come on back here. Okay. So welcome back. The video started out in Morocco, looking at a traditional farmer growing potatoes. He faced very significant challenges, particularly in terms of water availability, and talking about how he was having problems because rains came late, which is an aspect of global warming whereby traditional weather patterns no longer may hold true. So, in the context of that, there is somebody who suggests that there is a revolution coming in agriculture. Now, what do they say is this revolution going to entail? What were some of the facts that you may have noticed? Think for a minute. Think of the different points in the video where you saw new techniques, technologies, farming practices that will, in some way or other, revolutionize agriculture. Now, the key issue that they talked about in the context of Morocco was returning carbon to the topsoil. So the topsoil is the layer of earth which is on top. So typically this is the most productive, the most fertile type of soil that you're looking at. And one thing that is outlined in the video is that it actually takes about 500 years for 2.5 centimeters of topsoil to be laid down. So obviously this is very fragile. This is very important for farmers. When we talk about the loss of topsoil, we're usually talking about a process called erosion, and that is very, very harmful to farms, harmful to farmers' livelihoods. In Morocco, they are undertaking a number of steps in order to provide what's called soil regeneration, which is the reintroduction of nutrients into specifically the top layer of soil. And they showed the process of making organic fertilizer using animal and plant waste. Another revolutionary aspect that they highlighted in the video was in use in the Ukraine, and this is what they call precision farming. Precision farming, in this case, uses digital inputs. And we saw here the use of satellites to monitor conditions on the ground, to analyze soil for nitrogen content, and to target restorative farming practices. The next section of the video dealt with the issue of animal protein. And as we've seen before, as we talked about before, the production of animal protein is extremely inefficient. The amount of food, nutrients, and water that are required by an animal which is produced to be eaten by people is extremely inefficient in that it requires so much energy, time, effort, and food that could be eaten directly by people. The other thing that it results in is the production of greenhouse gases, which contribute to global heating, and specifically the main culprit in that is methane. And methane is an extremely harmful greenhouse gas. Here again is something that we've looked at before, which is they talked about the process of making meat in a lab, so without animals, without traditional animal husbandry. And one interesting thing that happened in that is one of the scientists says, a cow is also a technology. This is a very interesting statement. So I want you to think about and go back and you can look at the video again if you don't really have a good answer. What does the scientist mean when he says a cow is also a technology? So pause this video if you want to go back and look for that or think about that question. Okay, welcome back. One other thing that they looked at in that laboratory setting is a different type of protein production. And this is a type of protein which is produced using microalgae. So these are tiny plants that live in water, and this is a process that, different from producing animal protein, it's extraordinarily efficient, and it leads to a reduction in greenhouse gases through photosynthesis. So this is a very interesting concept, and it will be interesting to see how this product and how this process can be integrated into the food system. Finally, one of the things that is featured in this video is the impact on people. And one of the things it highlights is the concepts of inequity or inequality, and that in many parts of the world, farmers are actually rather poor in comparison to the rest of society, and that reflects a number of factors, some of which are governmental, some of which are economic, some of which are the assumptions that society makes about the value of farms and farming. And one of the results of this problem is that fewer people want to farm. We've seen, and according to the BBC, in the United Kingdom, in Britain, the average age of a farmer is 59 years old. In Kenya, it is 60 years old. And in Japan, with the highest average age for a farmer, it is 67. This is a fascinating article. You can go off and read that. That's the link there at the bottom. It's a fairly easy article to read, so I suggest that you do it. And then come on back here. Okay, welcome back. And now that you've read that article, I wanted to ask the question, what about Italy? Italy is interesting because it has among the highest numbers of farms in Europe, and those farms are among the smallest in Europe. The average size of a farm in Italy is 9 hectares. You can find the article where I took these facts from at this link below, and then I wanted to run through a couple of other key ideas from that paper, a couple of key takeaways. You'll notice that there in the first paragraph that there are some countries in the European Union that have very large average farm size. For example, in Slovakia, you have an average farm size of 119 hectares. And at the other end, you have countries like Malta, Cyprus, Greece, Slovenia, and then Italy at 9 hectares. Then also you see that the analysis of young farmers in the European Union, in the average of the 28 member states, more than half of the private farmers are over 55 years old. And this is particularly high in Portugal, Bulgaria, Italy, and Romania. And in Italy, you see that 68% of farmers are over 55 years old. From another little section later on, in discussing younger farmers, it says that Italy, along with Bulgaria, Portugal, and Romania, had less than 5% of young farmers and more than 40% of elderly farmers. And they think that these are trends that are likely to continue without external influence. So continuing on to look at the question of the age of farmers in Italy. This is a different article. You can find the link here down at the bottom. Also very interesting. You see a chart that reflects the similar kind of statistics that we just looked at, showing that the age of farmers skews definitely older. You can see really, from 40 to 44, all the way up to 75 and over, a much larger congregation than in the younger age groups. One thing that I wanted to point out, though, from this article, again, it's quite interesting, is that farm performance is different. So farm performance is actually more productive in farms where younger farmers are doing the work or doing the planning. Now, let's look at a quote from this where the authors write that we find the younger farmers on average have a higher level of education, a higher propensity to diversify agricultural activities in related businesses, and to invest in highly innovative sectors, such as organic farming. In addition, they use a higher amount of rented land that could be interpreted as a signal of a greater effort employed in the activity of the farmer. In fact, when farmers utilize rented land for agricultural purposes, because of the higher cost implied, they are incentivated to employ more effort in entrepreneurial activities. Now, continuing on this theme, why don't you go have a look at this video on YouTube. It's talking about young farmers in Italy, and it's talking about many of those same factors. So you see differences in education level, differences in ideas of how to treat the land. It actually gives the example, rather than of rented farmland, of young farmers who are actually going and reclaiming farmland which has been abandoned. But anyway, it's a very, very interesting video. And so have a look at that, and then come on back. Welcome back. Now, as we've looked at these different things, we see a couple of different alternative visions for the future. And I think you could break these down into two categories, one of which is practicing innovation, as we saw, for example, in Holland and their farming practices, the greenhouses, the computer-controlled environments, etc., or the idea of reviving tradition. So I think we'll look at two different views of that. So first, in terms of reviving tradition, here's a video. Very interesting, and I think it captures very well the idea that young farmers often are coming to the practice, coming to be participants in food systems out of a vision for a better future. So there's the link there to this video, and have a look at that, and then come on back. Welcome back, and now another video which is stressing the importance of practicing innovation. You can find the YouTube link there, and you'll see a number of very interesting tools, including, because we were talking about the idea of addressing inequity and the idea of the way in which technology is often not as available to farmers in less developed countries or for subsistence farmers, etc. And you see in this example a number of ways in which there are communication, knowledge bases, and other tools which can be used even on a very basic cellular phone, and the way in which that is intersecting with the farming practices in those environments. Okay, so have a look at that video. Come on back. And then finally for today, what I want you to do is a little bit of homework. I'd like you to read page 30 of the Building a Sustainable Business textbook. It's there at the link. And I want you to read through this, and I want you to identify when the farming family is describing the course of a lot of years of farming this farm and the different problems that they've had and the kind of situations that can arise in farming practices and the kind of changes that they made over the years. Okay? Feel free to post any questions that you have about any of this stuff or ideas on the forum. If you want to just try practicing writing, please do so. And most of all, for you and your families, I hope that everybody really stays safe and healthy, and you all have my best wishes.